The charity gym was buzzing with energy. Cameras flashed, fans chattered, and celebrities drifted from group to group, showing off their athletic talent. At the center of the room, Manny Pacquiao stood quietly, stretching his shoulders and warming up with light footwork. No fancy movements. No showboating. Just the calm rhythm of a man who had spent his entire life in the ring. But across the room stood someone who had no interest in calmness. Seagal. Tall, stiff, sunglasses still on indoors, moving with the confidence of a man who believed he had nothing left to learn. People parted when he walked, partly out of respect, partly out of confusion. Seagal spotted Manny almost instantly. The sight of Pacquiao gently shadowboxing made him grin. Not a friendly grin, a mocking one. He nudged the man next to him and spoke loud enough for half the gym to hear. Is that supposed to be boxing? That footwork wouldn't scare a beginner. People nearby froze. Some looked at Manny, expecting him to react. Others turned to Seagal, surprised at how boldly he insulted a living legend. Manny didn't glance his way. He simply continued warming up. Small steps, soft punches, smooth breathing. He wasn't here to impress anyone. It was just a charity event. But Seagal wasn't done. He laughed again, a long, theatrical, almost dramatic laugh, and walked closer. I've trained elite fighters. That little dance won't work on anyone real, he said, pointing toward Manny like a teacher scolding a student. Manny's coach looked irritated, but Manny gently raised a hand. It's all right, he whispered. Seagal shook his head in disbelief. If this is all he's got, the crowd should have stayed home. The gym went silent. People stopped jumping rope. Trainers stopped talking. Phones slowly lifted into the air, recording what looked like the beginning of a confrontation. Manny finally turned his head, not angry, not threatened, just quietly observing this man who had chosen to mock him publicly for no reason. The tension grew thicker with each second, and that's when the narrator begins. But what happened next made the entire crowd gasp. The room had fallen into an uneasy silence, the kind that happens when two worlds accidentally collide. Respect and ego. Manny Pacquiao, quiet and disciplined, against Seagal, loud and proud. Even though nothing physical had happened yet, the air crackled like two storms drifting toward each other. Manny resumed his warm-up, gently rotating his wrists and rolling his shoulders. He wasn't trying to show off. He wasn't trying to prove anything. To him, boxing was a lifelong craft, a discipline built on humility, not noise. But every move he made seemed to annoy Seagal even more. Seagal took a few slow steps forward, crossing his arms, making sure all eyes stayed on him. That's seriously the warm-up of a world champion? He sneered. You're moving like you're scared to throw a real punch. A few people gasped. Some eyebrows shot up. A couple of trainers exchanged glances, whispering under their breath. Manny stayed calm. His voice soft, steady. I'm only warming up, sir. This is just part of training. But Seagal rolled his eyes dramatically. Training? Come on. You're Manny Pacquiao. Show something impressive. You don't have to pretend. His voice echoed through the gym. Phones were already out. Live streams had started. Whispers spread across the room like wildfire. Manny's coach stepped forward. Sir, this is a charity event. Manny isn't here to compete. Seagal cut him off sharply. Then he shouldn't move like he's preparing for a fight. I'm just telling the truth. The crowd murmured. Some people looked uncomfortable. Others looked excited. They loved drama. They loved conflict. And right now, Seagal was providing plenty of it. Manny inhaled deeply, letting the tension slide off him. He bowed his head slightly in respect. It's all right, he told his coach again. No need to argue. But Seagal wasn't satisfied. He took another step forward, standing only a few feet from Manny now. Okay, champ, he said, mocking the word champ. Do something real. Throw a punch. Let me see your power. The gym fell silent. Even the sound of jump ropes and treadmills faded. Everyone leaned in with curiosity. Manny blinked slowly, surprised at the request. Sir, this isn't the time or place. Seagal smirked. So that's a no? You afraid to embarrass yourself? It's okay. Not everyone can handle pressure. That sentence hit the room like a slap. Some people sucked in their breath. Others whispered, oh no, he didn't. Manny's expression softened, not with anger, but with understanding. He had dealt with arrogance before. He had faced opponents who underestimated him. But this felt unnecessary, childish, but also unavoidable. He shook his head gently. I don't want to hurt anyone, Manny said calmly. This event is for charity, not challenge. Seagal's eyebrows shot upward. Hurt anyone? He laughed loudly, a deep, condescending laugh. You couldn't hurt me even if you tried. A ripple of reactions shot through the crowd. Did he really just say that? No way. He knows that's Pacquiao, right? But Seagal didn't care. He raised his chin high, spreading his arms like he was inviting destiny itself. Go ahead, champ. Throw one punch. Let's see if you can even surprise me. Manny exhaled slowly, as if releasing the last bit of hesitation left in him. His coach whispered, Manny, don't. You don't need to prove anything. Manny nodded, but everyone could see something shift inside him. Not anger, not pride, but a quiet acceptance. Steven Seagal wanted to test him in front of the world, and refusing now would only make things worse. For the event, for the crowd, for everyone watching. Manny raised his eyes and looked straight at Steven for the first time. Are you sure? Manny asked gently. His voice wasn't threatening. It was concerned, almost protective. Seagal waved his hand dismissively. Yes. Show me what all the hype is about. The crowd held their breath. The staff paused. The cameras zoomed in. Something big was about to happen. Before Manny throws that punch, tell me, which country or city are you watching from right now? Comment below. The stage was set. The eyes of the entire gym, and soon the entire internet, locked onto Manny Pacquiao as he prepared to throw the first punch that would silence Steven Seagal and shock the world. The gym was no longer a gym. It had transformed into a silent arena, a battlefield of pride, ego, and discipline. The lights felt brighter, the air thicker, the silence deeper. All eyes locked onto Manny Pacquiao and Steven Seagal. Manny stood calm, breathing softly through his nose, loosening his shoulders the way he always did before sparring. Steven stood across from him, arms behind his back, chin lifted like a king waiting to be entertained. The tension was electric. Trainers stopped mid-sentence. Fans held their phones up, fingers trembling with anticipation. Even the security guards leaned forward, unsure whether to stop the moment or witness history. Manny's coach whispered urgently, Manny, one mistake, and this becomes a headline. You don't need this. But Manny didn't answer. His eyes were focused, not in anger, but in clarity. If Seagal wanted a demonstration, Manny would give him one. Not to humiliate him, not to prove superiority, but to end the unnecessary disrespect in a peaceful, controlled way. Seagal strutted closer, tapping his chest with 2 fingers. Right here, he said confidently. Hit me. Anywhere. I'll barely feel it. A couple of the younger fighters in the crowd snickered. They knew exactly how dangerous Manny could be with just a fraction of his power. But Seagal mistook their laughter for support. He smirked proudly. I've handled real fighters, he announced. Show me what you've got. Manny took a single step forward. A small step. A respectful step. He raised his right fist halfway, almost as if asking permission one last time. Are you absolutely sure? Manny asked again, calm as a monk. Seagal scoffed. I'm waiting, champ. The word champ dripped with sarcasm. The crowd leaned in. Someone whispered, this is about to go viral. Another replied, if he hits him for real, we might witness a body flying. Manny inhaled deeply and suddenly shifted into perfect stance. It was small, subtle, barely noticeable, but the fighters in the room felt it immediately. His weight centered, his hips aligned, his shoulders relaxed, his eyes sharpened. A switch had flipped. Seagal's smirk faltered for half a second when he saw the stance. A stance only a lifetime warrior could recognize. But he quickly recovered and pretended not to care. The crowd formed a tight circle. A ring was created without ropes, without rules, just presence. A charity event had turned into a showdown. Manny lifted his left hand softly, setting distance. His right hand hovered near his chest. His foot tapped once, the pre-strike rhythm every boxer knows. Seagal widened his stance, trying to mimic power. But his posture was stiff, unbalanced, the posture of someone who trained for movies, not war. Manny saw it instantly. He wasn't judging. He wasn't mocking. He simply understood. And that understanding made him even more gentle. All right, Manny whispered. One punch. A wave of murmurs rippled through the spectators. This is it. Oh my God. He's really going to do it. Cameras zoomed in. People held their breaths. And then, Manny paused. He lowered his fist for a moment and looked around the crowd, noticing young kids, teens, families watching with wide, excited eyes. He didn't want this to become a real fight. He wanted to make a point, quietly, safely, respectfully. Manny turned back to Seagal. "I'll go light," he said. Seagal rolled his eyes. "Go however you want. I'm ready." But everyone in the room could see Seagal wasn't ready. Not even close. Manny settled back into position. The crowd leaned even closer. The room fell into a deep, heavy silence. The kind where even a heartbeat feels loud. Manny shifted his weight to his back foot, raised his right hand, loosened his wrist, and then a loud voice broke the silence. "Bro, no way. He's really doing it." Half the crowd jumped. Some people laughed nervously. Others shushed the guy instantly. But the tension was cracked just enough for Manny to pause again. He looked at the crowd and smiled peacefully. He wasn't angry. He wasn't pressured. He wasn't even irritated. He was simply Manny, a man whose humility was bigger than his power. But Seagal saw Manny's smile as hesitation. "Aha," he barked. "I knew it. You're scared to hit me." The crowd didn't gasp this time. They groaned. Softly, painfully, collectively. Everyone knew what was coming now. Manny's smile faded, not in anger, but in acceptance. "Okay," he whispered. "Let's finish this." He tightened his stance one final time. But right before Manny unleashed the punch that would shock the entire gym, the narrator cuts in with, "If you were standing there, watching this happen live, would you support Manny or Seagal? Comment below. I want to see whose side everyone is on." The gym went silent again. Manny lifted his fist. The entire crowd braced themselves. And in the next moment, Manny Pacquiao finally threw the punch that would leave Steven Seagal and the whole world speechless. The room was frozen. Every breath held. Every pair of eyes locked onto one man, Manny Pacquiao, as he finally prepared to throw the punch Steven Seagal had demanded. Manny's stance was calm, centered, almost peaceful. But the energy he radiated, the quiet power swirling around him, it made even the air feel different. Seagal stood tall, trying his best not to show the flicker of doubt that had crept into his eyes. His chin lifted higher, shoulders tensed, chest puffed forward like he was posing for a movie poster. The crowd pressed tighter around them, forming a perfect circle. Some people held their phones with both hands just to keep them steady. Others whispered, "This is crazy. Bro, Seagal is not ready for this. Please don't let him hit him full power." But Manny had no intention of hurting anyone. His power came from control, not ego. He inhaled slowly, letting his lungs fill, then exhaled, calming the entire gym. Then, he moved. Not a big motion, not a dramatic wind-up, just a smooth, lightning-fast shift of his shoulders, the kind only a trained warrior would even notice. And instantly, a whip of air sliced through the room. Manny's fist shot forward so fast the cameras couldn't capture it cleanly. It traveled like a blur, a streak, a flash of movement that rewired the entire mood of the gym. The punch didn't touch Steven Seagal. It didn't need to. Manny's fist stopped 1 inch from Seagal's ribs, an inch so small, so precise, it could have been a surgical measurement. But the sound of Manny's fist cutting through the air hit like a thunderclap. Crack. The echo bounced off the gym walls. Water bottles dropped. People gasped. A couple of spectators even jumped back in shock. Seagal flinched violently. His entire body jerked backward like he had been hit with an electrical shock. For a split second, his sunglasses almost flew off his face. The crowd erupted. "Oh my God, what was that? I didn't even see his arm move. Replay that. Replay that right now." Seagal stumbled a step, blinking rapidly, trying to pretend he wasn't shaken. His face flushed red as he tried to regain control of the situation. "That was okay," Seagal muttered, forcing laugh. "Decent speed, I guess." But everyone saw the truth. His hand still trembled. His knees looked stiff. His eyes were wider than before. Manny smiled politely and lowered his hand. "That was gentle," Manny said softly. "Only demonstration." The room filled with murmurs. "Gentle? That was gentle. He could have cut him in half if he wanted. No way Seagal talks trash after that." But Seagal, not willing to let his pride go, lifted a shaky hand and waved lazily. "It's fine," he said. "I could tell it wasn't full power." But nobody bought it. Not even Seagal. A man from the crowd stepped forward, a fighter who had sparred professionally. "Steven, that wasn't even 10%, he said. "That was Pacquiao breathing." The crowd burst into laughter, not mocking, but shocked laughter. The kind that comes from witnessing something unbelievable. Seagal's smile tightened. His jaw clenched. He tried desperately to look unbothered, but sweat had begun to gather on his forehead. He lifted a hand to wipe it away, playing it off as if the lights were too hot, but everyone knew. Manny bowed slightly, a gesture of humility despite the chaos he had just created. "I never want to hurt anyone," Manny said gently. "That's why I stopped the punch." The crowd listened, admiring the humility behind such frightening skill. But, Manny continued, "Sometimes people misunderstand boxing. They think it is about ego." He looked at Seagal with soft, kind eyes. "It's not." That simple sentence hit harder than the punch ever could. A wave of respect washed through the room. People stared at Manny with admiration, awe, even disbelief. Seagal tried to nod, stiffly, awkwardly, as if he understood. Then one of the trainers whispered loudly. "Bro, he almost split the air." More laughter, more gasps, more disbelief. Manny stepped back, signaling the moment was over. He loosened his gloves, relaxed his posture, and turned toward the kids watching at the side of the gym. "Remember," he told them warmly, "real strength is in control, not showing off." The kids nodded, wide-eyed, hanging on to every word. Seagal watched Manny walk away, and for the first time, there was no smirk on his face. No arrogance, just shock. The punch had landed, not on his body, but on his pride. And the crowd? They would never forget what they had just witnessed. The gym was still vibrating with the shock of Manny's lightning-fast punch. Conversations overlapped, phones replayed slow-motion clips, and the crowd couldn't stop buzzing. But none of that compared to the storm building inside Steven Seagal. For the first time in the entire event, he wasn't the center of attention. For the first time, people weren't whispering about him. They were whispering about Manny. And Seagal hated it. He stood stiffly, arms crossed, trying to appear calm. But every few seconds, his jaw clenched, his fingers twitched, or his breathing hitched slightly. Signs that the punch had rattled him much more than he wanted to admit. A trainer walked past him and said jokingly, "Man, if that punch landed, we'd be calling an ambulance, not a referee." The crowd laughed. Seagal didn't. He took a step forward, clearing his throat loudly, trying to regain control of the moment. All right," he said, forcing a smile. It was fast. I'll give him that. Nobody responded. They were too busy looking at Manny, who was quietly greeting kids and shaking hands with fans. He wasn't bragging. He wasn't talking about the punch. He was simply being Manny Pacquiao, humble, kind, and grounded, which only made Seagal feel even more overshadowed. He finally exhaled sharply and marched toward Manny. "Manny!" he called out, louder than necessary. The gym fell quiet. Everyone turned. Manny turned too, smiling politely. "Yes." Seagal approached him with a forced confidence, shoulders stiff, chest out. "I admit your punch was sharp," he said. "But speed isn't everything. Real fighters rely on technique, discipline, mastery." Manny nodded calmly. "That's true." Seagal blinked. He wasn't expecting agreement. "It's not about flashy moves," Seagal continued. "Anyone can throw a quick punch. But can you control the opponent? Can you dominate the space? Can you read energy?" The crowd glanced at each other. Seagal was trying to reclaim dominance with philosophy, classic. Manny wiped sweat from his forehead and answered quietly. "In boxing, technique is important. But so is respect." A ripple went through the crowd. Seagal's eyebrow twitched. "Oh, I respect fighters," he said defensively. "But I also tell the truth. And the truth is, a punch that doesn't land doesn't mean anything." Manny smiled gently, the kind of smile that signals patience, not weakness. "Steven," he said softly, "I didn't throw the punch to impress anyone. I only showed what you asked for." Someone in the back whispered. He just ended him politely. Seagal felt the heat rise in his face. Trying to salvage his pride, he stepped closer, pointing at Manny's chest. "Maybe you stopped the punch because you knew you couldn't handle a real exchange." The entire crowd went silent. Even the children watching froze. Manny's coach tensed. The trainers stepped forward, expecting conflict. But Manny didn't even blink. He looked straight into Seagal's eyes, not with anger, but with a deep calm that felt almost intimidating. Like a man who had already fought every battle inside himself and had nothing left to prove. "Steven," Manny said calmly, "a real fighter doesn't need to prove anything by hurting people. Strength isn't in the punch. Strength is in the choice not to throw it. The room held its breath. Seagal's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Manny continued, his voice soft but powerful, carrying through the gym like a lesson every fighter needed to hear. You laughed at me earlier. You doubted my skill. That's all right. But I don't fight for pride. I fight for discipline, honor, and the people who believe in me. A woman in the crowd whispered. He's teaching him without even trying. Seagal swallowed hard. For the first time today, he felt small. Not because Manny insulted him. Manny hadn't insulted anyone. But because Manny's humility made his arrogance look childish. Manny stepped back slightly, giving Seagal space. I respect what you've done in movies, Manny said sincerely. And I respect martial artists of all styles. But respect should go both ways. Seagal shifted uncomfortably. His earlier confidence had completely evaporated. The crowd wasn't laughing anymore. They weren't mocking him. They were simply watching, waiting to see how he would respond to such grace and calm strength. For several long seconds, Seagal stood speechless. Then Manny bowed his head slightly, the gesture so simple and pure that it hit harder than any punch ever could. We are all here for charity, Manny said gently. Let's give people something positive today. The crowd erupted in applause. Seagal looked around, overwhelmed. Every face, man, woman, child, was looking at Manny with respect. And him? They looked at him with pity. He slowly stepped back, defeated without ever being struck. Manny turned back to the fans, smiling warmly. He had ended the confrontation with humility, not fists. And in doing so, Steven Seagal was humbled more deeply than any physical blow could achieve. The applause echoing through the gym wasn't just noise. It was a verdict, a declaration, a public acknowledgement that Manny Pacquiao had won the moment with humility, not fists. Steven Seagal stood frozen, feeling every clap like a small slap to his ego. His jaw tightened. His shoulders sagged. He looked like a man who had climbed into the ring expecting a movie script, and instead stepped into reality. And reality did not favor him. A young fan hurried up to Manny with a phone. Sir Manny, can I take a picture? Before Manny could answer, Seagal stepped forward. I'll take one too, he said quickly. But the kid didn't hear him. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. He rushed toward Manny, completely ignoring Seagal. The crowd formed another circle, this one full of excited faces wanting autographs, photos, videos. Seagal was left standing on the outside, watching. The humiliation deepened. It wasn't just the punch. It wasn't just the applause. It wasn't just Manny's calm response. It was that everyone chose Manny. Not the action star. Not the martial arts choreographer. Not the Hollywood icon. But the simple, humble fighter from the Philippines who didn't need to brag about anything. Someone whispered behind Seagal. He should have just kept quiet. Bro picked the wrong legend. Manny embarrassed him without even trying. Seagal's ears burned. He wanted to walk out. He wanted to shout. He wanted to yell that he was still great, still powerful, still respected. But he couldn't move. Because just then, another camera crew entered the gym. Not fans this time, a local sports news team. The reporter scanned the room, spotted Manny, and beelined straight toward him. Manny Pacquiao. We heard something unbelievable just happened. Can we interview you? Manny nodded kindly. Of course, thank you. The crew set up mics and lights around Manny. The crowd grew even larger. Seagal's face melted into disbelief. He had come here expecting to be the center of the event, maybe even the headline. Now, he wasn't even a footnote. A trainer whispered to a cameraman. Hey, should we get Steven too? The cameraman shrugged. For what? The story is Manny. Seagal pretended not to hear it, but the words pierced deeper than any punch. The interview began. Manny, earlier we heard there was a little demonstration between you and Steven Seagal. People are saying your punch shocked the whole gym. Manny smiled gently. It was nothing serious. Just a small demonstration. We're here for charity, to inspire kids. Grace, humility, kindness, even after being mocked. The reporter leaned in. Some people thought Seagal challenged you unfairly. What do you say about that? Manny shook his head calmly. I don't blame him. Maybe he just misunderstood. We all have moments of pride. What matters is how we move forward. The crowd nodded, impressed. Seagal's chest tightened. He couldn't take it anymore. He stepped forward abruptly. I'd like to say something, he announced loudly. The entire gym fell silent again, but this time, not in awe. In discomfort. The reporter hesitated. He glanced at Manny, silently asking for direction. Manny nodded politely, giving Seagal the floor. Seagal cleared his throat. I want to clarify something, he began. I wasn't mocking Manny. I was only testing his technique. The room shifted awkwardly. People exchanged looks. Some rolled their eyes. Others sighed. Even the kids seemed unconvinced. Seagal continued, forcing a laugh. I mean, come on. I'm Steven Seagal. I've trained elite martial artists for decades. I wasn't actually serious. Silence. Then one voice from the crowd spoke, a coach who'd watched everything earlier. Steven, he said gently, it's okay to say you were impressed. No shame in that. Seagal froze. All eyes were on him. All he had to do was swallow his pride. Just once. He looked at Manny. Manny's expression wasn't triumphant or smug. It was understanding and patient, like he genuinely wanted Seagal to succeed in this moment, not fail. Seagal inhaled slowly, staring at the ground as if trying to pull the words out of the floor. I may have underestimated him, he whispered. The crowd nodded. And I might have been disrespectful. Manny stepped forward and put a gentle hand on Seagal's shoulder. Thank you, Manny said softly. It takes strength to admit wrong. More strength than throwing punches. The room exhaled together, a moment of peace settling over the tension. Seagal's eyes softened. A flicker of humility, real humility, passed through him. Manny offered his hand. Seagal looked at it, then shook it. Applause erupted. But this applause wasn't for Manny. It wasn't for the punch. It wasn't for the drama. It was for the lesson, the growth, the moment of humanity. Seagal nodded, finally relieved. And for the first time all day, he smiled genuinely. By the time the charity event ended, the gym felt completely different. What started as a tense confrontation had transformed into a moment people would talk about for years. Manny Pacquiao and Steven Seagal stood side by side for a final photo, not as rivals, but as two men who had reconciled in front of hundreds of witnesses. The applause had faded. The cameras were being packed away. Families were going home. But the story was only beginning. Within an hour, videos had spread across social media like wildfire. Clip 1, Manny's punch moving like a blur. Clip 2, Seagal flinching. Clip 3, Manny giving his speech about respect. Clip 4, Seagal admitting he was wrong. Clip 5, their handshake. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Manny Pacquiao. Hashtag humble champion. Hashtag Seagal moment. Hashtag respect over ego. Hashtag fastest punch ever. And the comments poured in by the thousands. This is how real champions behave. Manny didn't just win, he taught a lesson. Ego got dropped harder than any punch. Man, look at Seagal's face when that punch stops an inch away. Even celebrities reacted. Black Circle fighters posted breakdown videos of Manny's technique. Black Circle actors praised Manny's humility. Black Circle trainers praised the control behind that punch. Black Circle motivational speakers used Manny's quote, "Real strength is in the choice not to hurt people." By nighttime, news channels around the world had picked up the story. Manny Pacquiao stuns gym crowd with lightning punch. Pacquiao's humility goes viral after Seagal incident. Ego versus discipline. Manny teaches unexpected lesson. Seagal's name trended too, but not with mockery. Surprisingly, with respect. People admired that he admitted his mistake publicly. But the person everyone wanted to hear from was Manny. So later that night, Manny uploaded a short message to his social media. The video was simple. No lights, no stage, no dramatic editing. Just Manny sitting at home, still wearing the same training clothes from the gym. He looked into the camera with the calm expression millions of fans knew so well. Good evening, everyone, he began softly. Today, something unexpected happened. But I want to share what I learned. The video cut to a closer angle. In life, we meet people who challenge us. Some challenge our skill. Some challenge our patience. Some challenge our pride. He paused, thoughtful. But we do not have to fight every challenge. Not every punch must land. Sometimes, the greatest victory is choosing peace. Comments exploded instantly. Manny always speaks with wisdom. This man is a true legend. He won the whole day with one sentence. Manny continued. Mr. Seagal and I had a misunderstanding, but misunderstandings happen everywhere. In the gym, at work, in families. What matters is how we end them. With humility. With understanding. He smiled gently. And remember, respect is stronger than any punch. The video ended with a simple message on screen. Spread respect, not ego. The view count jumped to millions within hours. People around the world stitched the video, reacted to it, made edits, and shared clips. Even kids recreated Manny's one-inch punch using slow motion effects for fun. Seagal posted his own message the next morning. I learned something yesterday. Manny Pacquiao is not only fast, he's wise. Thank you for the lesson. It was simple, honest, and humble. The internet respected it. As the days passed, the Seagal-Pacquiao charity incident became more than just a viral moment. It became a short story of ego, humility, skill, and growth. A story schools used to teach sportsmanship. A story parents told their kids. A story fans repeated everywhere. And the final comment everyone kept repeating was the same. Manny didn't win with a punch. He won with character. The event raised more donations than expected, and the charity happily announced a record total. But the real impact? It was the reminder that, no matter how powerful you are, no matter how famous you are, no matter how skilled you think you are, respect always wins. Humility always speaks louder than fists. And true champions never stop teaching the world what strength really looks like.